Resident Evil 7 was a huge and much needed step for the world famous horror franchise, and basically dug the series out of the hole that it put itself into, with entries too focused on quick action and Hollywood blockbuster type stories. That's not to say they were all bad, but it had certainly lost the fear and the feeling of having to survive by wit, skill and knowledge, and was replaced by stocking you up with many guns, crate loads of ammo, and turning more into a shooter game than a survival one. 7 decided to do away with all that, and return to the feeling of isolation and being lost, put you in the dark with only your intuition to survive, and focus less on how many enemies you kill and more about how you escape this nightmare you found yourself in. A great step forward. Resident Evil 7 puts you in the shoes of Ethan Winters, a man who is looking for his wife in a rundown estate in Dulve, Louisiana. After finding her, he's attacked by the residents, the Bakers, and has to survive a new kind of horror. There are actually quite a number of covers to get through on this one, so let's just jump right in. The main feeling I instantly got from seeing this was a miserable, suffocating and dreary atmosphere. The heavy use of browns, greys and blacks really creates this overwhelming fear, or dread and uncertainty, which goes very well with the look of the dilapidated old building that belongs to the Bakers. And standing right outside of it ominously, and looking very out of place, is what we believe to be a small girl. Questions are asked right off the bat, and I love that. The main entrance to the Baker estate, one we see from the beginning of the game, is dark and dingy. You can't see any light or life from the inside. Knowing that's where you need to go is unsettling as you're jumping headfirst into literal darkness. These old buildings are big and spacious, so anything could be hiding in the limitless shadows in many rooms. The outside is no better with its wet and miserable front garden, where life only just hangs on in the weeds growing outside. It's in a state of abandonment and unkempt. Nobody has cared for it in a long time. It's coupled together nicely with the sun setting in the background, as it's like the horror is telling you, it's gonna be dark soon, so would you rather be inside or out? It's only a matter of time before we find you anyway. Personally speaking, I've always hated sunsets because it signifies the ending of the day, and that's quite a sad thing to think about. But when it comes to this story, it means more than just the end of the day. For some, it's the end of their lives, and others, it's the end of their lives as they know it. The trees on either side give this great feeling of being swallowed, like they're hands trying to grab you and pull you into the darkness. They protrude into the scene like black veins and spread as far as they can, very reminiscent of how the mold affects the people it's infected. Then we come to the small girl standing out in the front. Initially it was hard to tell what way she was facing because she's just this creepy black figure standing in the mud. I always thought she was looking at the house because it's a place that she considers her home with her family, but just making out her feet positioning, it seems as though she's looking at the viewer. Appearing as nothing but a silhouette gives this a small glimpse into what she is. An unknown being that is certainly not human and is responsible for all the black mold around the estate. It's fitting that she's in a garden that I earlier described as abandoned and uncared for, as one of her main motivations in how she treats people's lives stems from her desire to be loved and part of a family. What makes this scene setup interesting is that this could be through the eyes of a specific yet unseen character. This is entirely my interpretation, but I think the person she's looking at is one of the victims of the Bakers before the events of Resident Evil 7. This is simply because it appears though the person is approaching from the house through the open gate. When Ethan arrives at the house, the main gate is locked, so he has to find another way around, so he never enters through the front gate. The gate is also apparently locked when the Sewer Gators film crew arrived a month earlier, so they also find that their only way in is through the back door. When Ethan is searching for Mia, he comes across a list of people who have died or turned. Aside from Mia, who is still alive, this leaves the possibility of the persons entering the Baker estate to be one of the 13 victims on that list, possibly coming to the house for various reasons and seeing Evelyn before being somehow lured into the house to be part of the family and ultimately killed or turned into one of the molded. What makes the title of this game really cool and sort of solidified it as a soft reboot is the addition of merging it with its Japanese title. In Japan, the Resident Evil series is known as Biohazard, which gives off a more science fiction approach than the West's dark and almost supernatural feeling. Here they combine the two to make Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which I really like. Even though the series hasn't really been that different between regional releases, It's still pretty cool how they wanted the two worlds to come together and enjoy this fresh take on the series. The bold white font, including the orange, is etched all over with black markings, giving it a worn and distressed look. Just to make the title a little bit more clever, the Roman numerals for 7, simply VII, were incorporated into the colour scheme in the Vil of Evil. A simple design choice, but very effective and very memorable, looking almost as if the orange is starting to infect the white. Underneath, in a small subheading, also in all lowercase, is the name Biohazard. A couple final details. It was rated 18 by the certification board in the UK and the US. The Capcom logo is the same one that has been used since 1989, and the PS4 version is PlayStation VR compatible. It was supposed to be rolling out to other consoles and PC after the VR exclusivity expired, but for whatever reason it never happened, so the PlayStation covers are unique in that they only have this banner and title. This is one of the 2 original Japanese releases of Biohazard 7. It's a lot more plain, but as they say, less is more, and I feel that this one has quite a striking visual. An asymmetric picture made up of various aspects of the game, a dirty off-white/brown background, the sunset glinting through the shadows, and the bold title underneath. Firstly, let's pick apart what we see in the creepy visual presented. We can clearly see the face of Mia in the middle looking upwards. I wasn't sure if it was Evelyn or Mia shown here, but we will know that it is in fact Mia because of another cover that we'll see shortly. Here she has an expressionless face with her eyes obscured by the darkness, almost like she's being controlled and blindly doing what's being asked of her, or in Evelyn's case, demanded. It could also allude to the fact that she has a side of herself that she has hidden from Ethan. Flowing outwards from her is her hair that makes up more of the black imagery. To the right, we can see what appears to be a baby still in its mother's womb, which we can directly relate to Evelyn's birth and her obsessive desire for a mother figure in Mia. To the left, we can see a staple of some of the iconic creatures in the series, with big eyes growing and bulging from unnatural places. Below that, we have what resembles an arm, very similar to the ones that the molded have, grotesque, uneven, and deadly. I can't be sure, but it seems there is another one to the right reaching out. Above Mia, we have this ominous structure encircling the top that is made up of various pieces of wood/trees, wire, tools, webbing, and possibly animal parts, as was seen in the beginning of the game. In the centre of the circle, we have the silhouette of the Baker estate seen in the same angle as was depicted on the cover of the European and North American release. Who knows if Evelyn is still standing there in the garden, hidden in the darkness. To the left of that, we can see another industrial area, the Abercrombie salt mine, with its distinctive tall structure. The areas on either side that span out the length of the cover can either just be plain land, the swampland of Dulvey, the water that the ship Annabelle washed up in, or just simply an artistic addition to the graphic to keep it more interesting. A nice detail that protrudes from the images are small twigs and streaks that look like an infection making its way through the bloodstream. The image is completed with a glint of light coming from the middle, the sun setting behind the Baker estate and welcoming the beginning of the night and allowing the darkness to take hold. The way this graphic is presented with the light in the back and the dirty look at the background, it somewhat resembles an X-ray when it's held up on the board. It's showing you the insides of the infection and what's causing it, especially the area that has the baby and the shape underneath that I can't really tell what it is. Marguerite Baker did mention that she'd been seeing a doctor and doing tests in one of the diary entries too, in which the mold infection was found within her body. Even though this game came out around 5 years before Resident Evil Village, its direct sequel, I did notice a couple items on here that somewhat allude to it, whether intentional or not. First of all is the baby that's facing Mia. This foreshadows Mia having Ethan's child, Rose, and it being a black silhouette could also mean that it's born with the molded genetic structure. And secondly, the circular structure above Mia's head bears a slight resemblance to Mother Miranda, the antagonist of Village, with her headdress, especially in the boss form. It's made even stranger by the fact that she disguises herself as Mia in order to abduct Rose. A stretch, I know, but it's funny how it works into the story. Like with the EU/NA release, they've combined both regions' titles into one for the soft reboot, so here it's called Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. The title is all uppercase while the subheading is all lowercase, mirroring the Western release and keeping it in English. With this entry, they also cleverly managed to get the number 7 into the title without adding an actual number, this time using a large portion of the letter Z. The Japanese text underneath is simply a direct translation of the game's title, Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. This cover shows that it's once again PlayStation VR compatible. A warning that shows this game contains explicit content is made by Capcom and has a label showcasing it as survival horror. Something to note that will come up soon is the Zero D rating that it's been given. The Japanese Ratings Board, Computer Entertainment Rating Organization, indicates that a Zero D is for the ages of 17 and above, and that it contains adult material. Do you remember how before I said that this cover is one of 2 versions released in Japan? Well, that's because they decided to release 2 versions of the same game. This is the second version, which was dubbed the Grotesque version. The standard release that was rated 0D had a fair amount censored to comply with Japan's strict content regulations due to explicit violent graphic content such as limb removal and scenes of an uncomfortable nature. So, to give the people a more horrific experience, they released a second version with the 0Z rating, which is the highest rating it could get in Japan and is only available to people 18 and above. This cover is an alternative version of the previous entry, in which the artwork has been changed to solid black, with no shading or texture, against a solid red background with minor changes to the image itself. We can no longer see the baby in the womb, as most of the right hand side is no longer visible. The arm reaching out is heavily obscured and has more blackness coming from it, and there is no longer the creepy makeshift circle above Mia's head. The area to the left has been made bolder and now seems to resemble some kind of bridge or road. The glint from the sunset is still somewhat visible, but without the orange and white colouring, it kind of loses its allure and looks a bit out of place, being the only soft shape surrounded by solid. The red background also has no dirt or any kind of texture on it. That being said, even with all the changes, I still really like this version, probably even more so than its alternative, mainly because I find red and black colours to go so well with each other, especially in this solid colour art style. It's ominous and screams danger and darkness. The title itself is the same, while also undergoing a colour change that allows the white to stand out a lot more against the red and black. The orange 7 has been made a little lighter too to keep up with the change. Underneath, we can see a new label to indicate what this version actually is, the Grotesque version. The Japanese text has also included this translation, so now it reads Biohazard 7 Resident Evil Grotesque version. Along with the explicit warning and survival horror labels, we can see the 0Z rating with a new block of text next to it that warns that this product is restricted to people over 18. Before I close this one out, I must add, this version is actually still heavily censored compared to the international versions, despite it being classed as something less censored than its original release. Changes were made such as blood no longer being red but black, limb removal is omitted or heavily toned down, replacing gruesome moments with entirely different outcomes and even altering moments so they happen off-screen or are skipped entirely. It doesn't make a lot of sense why they released another version yet still heavily censor it. So unfortunately the Grotesque version label is extremely misleading to the players and unfortunate buyers who were expecting what should have been the international version, which is a shame. But at least we got a really nice alternative cover art for it. Next up is the European/North American Gold Edition of Resident Evil 7, an expanded version which includes 2 banned footage content packs, as well as the End of Zoe and Not a Hero DLCs, which brings new story content and gameplay additions. On this cover, we see Evelyn standing in darkness, looming over the Baker estate with a devilish grin, and staring at the viewer, an all too familiar orange eye present. As Evelyn stares, we can see that she has a bluish tint to her skin tone, making her seem ghostly or undead. Couple that with her creepy smile and eye colour, it's clear that she's not an ordinary little girl. She's something man-made and not for good intentions. The orange eye is kind of a giveaway of creatures in the Resident Evil series, where they're usually shown to be some kind of weak point or just an addition to their hideous transformations. While this does give off an unsettling atmosphere, it also kind of slightly ruins the discovery for first-time players, as it's somewhat heavily hinted at that she's the main antagonist. Granted, she doesn't appear much until the very end, but the previous covers all left a sense of mystery and unknown. Even the one where she's standing in front of the house gave a more chilling vibe because we couldn't see who or what she is. The Baker estate can be seen under the sunset from a slightly raised angle. We can't see it much, but it still gives off that foreboding and eerie haunted house vibe that you know will only contain fear and death. It blends into Evelyn's blue dress and dark hair, which goes well with the theme of her enveloping not just the residents, but the whole house and those who dare come near, such as Ethan and the unfortunate film crew. Her position above the building shows that she's in command, controlling the events and enjoying playing with people's lives as she sees fit. The title and the subheading are the same ones used in the original release and are joined by a golden bar underneath that simply reads Gold Edition. Our final cover we're looking at today is the Japanese Gold Edition, which includes all previously mentioned DLC and is also the less censored grotesque version, as there's actually no standard version of this edition released. Very similar to the grotesque version, this has mostly the same style but differences in the image, the colour scheme and the text. We see a much more human and recognisable Mia. This is how we knew it was her in the Japanese standard version. The Baker estate and salt mines are a bit more illuminated and detailed, and the colour has got added shading to it rather than just being blocks of solid colour. Throughout the covers, there has been a trending theme of sunsets, and I think this one, along with the EU/NA original release, show it best. The deep red with the soft shades of orange and white give the cover a very gloomy feeling of something ending. As mentioned before, it could be people's lives, or the lives as they knew it. It's all coming to an end as the events of the story unfold. They're bright colours and should help you through the darkness, but it won't be around for long. With the shading and added textures, we're able to see Mia in a much better light than we could before. There's no shadowing over her eyes, so we're able to see her whole face. Her eyes are closed, and she's been crying. Her mouth appears to show a small trail of blood too. Evelyn's infection has taken a great toll on her, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally too. When Ethan finds her, she's already in a worn out and confused state after a long time of being trapped there. Her hair has been expanded on so that we can now make it out clearly, and it's obscuring the arm at the bottom, if it was put there at all in this cover, and half of the large eye. The placement of the Baker house being above her seems to show that that's all her mind is now, because the biohazardous weapon has taken a hold of her, and even though she tries to fight it, she can't leave the house. She's part of it now, part of the family that she desperately wants to get away from. The burning sun with the vibrant reds in the background give off a vision of flames on a hellscape. The nightmare's all too real for them, it's like being in hell. The Baker house and the salt mines are a little more visible now. With the details we can see the woodwork and architecture of the house, as well as the metallic and industrial layout of the salt mine. The trees in front have also been enlarged to give better perspective to the house. The text and font are the same from the previously released Japanese covers, but now has the added gold edition bar underneath. It's funny that with each new edition, the translated title just gets longer and longer. With the English text, it looks a bit more tidy and organised because it's in blocked areas, but the translation is just text underneath, which has now ended up reading Biohazard 7 Resident Evil Gold Edition Grotesco Version. It's been really fun to go through this one, as they all bring something new and unique to the versions. Very different stylistic choices in each of them. For this one, I'll have to go with Japan's Gold Edition, simply because it gives off a perfect feeling of horror, fear and mystery. It's not dark or overly creepy, but seeing Mia like that is unsettling and brings more emotion than the others. I really like how we've seen that one design used in the different versions. The Western one has gone for two completely different covers, and I think its Gold Edition lost a lot of what it's had in the original cover. But the Japanese covers expanded on what they already used, and made it better each time. What do you think, and which one do you like best?